FM News Talk 97.1.
On-demand audio.
This is a topic that has fascinated me, especially after the headlines earlier this week where we learned that Facebook actually hired a PR firm to plant negative stories about Google. And my immediate reaction was they had to hire someone to plant stories about Google because isn't it just kind of creep you out all by itself? This is a really this is a scary book, honestly. I mean, it's very informative, but it's creepy. It's Search and Destroy: Why You Can't Trust Google Inc. By Scott Clellan, who joins us on the phone right now. Scott, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Dana.
This is you've really done a lot of work here. This is you get into so many things, like how Google tracks everything from like every behavior that we can think of, what our interests are, things that we shop for, things that we watch, what we write, what we receive. And the question that develops in my mind when I get into this book and I realize exactly everything that Google is collecting on me is what is to stop Google from using this information against me or anything in the future?
Nothing, and that's why I wrote the book. Is there is zero accountability. What we have with Google is the greatest concentration of information power in world history. They're the only ones that are seeking to copy and record everything that goes on in the internet. They're the only ones that are doing it and then taking advantage of it. And they basically say, look, there's nothing to worry about. We have a don't be evil credo, and you can trust us. Well, my book, basically, I knew they couldn't be trustworthy, so I wrote a book to prove that they're untrustworthy, unethical, and shockingly political, exactly the opposite of what they've represented to the public.
And how exactly is when you get into this too, when you talk about the chapter when you're discussing J. Edgar Hoover, how is Google's what everything is it's doing, everything that it's collecting, how can it be used politically? What do you see that Google is doing that falls into this?
Well, what troubles me most in the book is when you can track everything, and Google tracks everything political. They have given all their services for free, basically, to candidates. So every candidate of every stripe uses YouTube as a YouTube channel. They use the free software services and free tracking services and whatever. But everybody has made the same mistake. They don't realize that all the benefits that Google gives, they come with a cost. And there's a great cost that's hidden and misrepresented. So Google is the only entity on the planet that knows every political candidate's supporters, funders, voters, and voter groups, mobilization efforts, strategies, hot buttons for individual voters. So the knowledge that Google has is immensely helpful potentially in an election. I don't know if they've tilted an election, but they have the motive, they have the temptation, and they have the opportunity, and they have zero accountability from anybody on that. And we know the 2000 election was decided by 300 votes in Florida. We know it was several thousand in Ohio in 2004. And the ability to tilt and skew elections, if you're the only entity that knows everything about every campaign and is basically the digital gatekeeper on the internet that has no accountability, people should be worried.
Yeah, absolutely. They should definitely be worried. Well, and is it because that they're just so big and they feel as though that they have the excuse to be able to be so, I don't know, have such a monopoly on information such as this?
Well, I don't mind big as long as big is lawful and big is ethical and big is a fair representation. So right. Their problem is they're deceitful and deceptive and untrustworthy. They represent themselves to be ethical when they are, they trample the golden rule regularly. The book is just a history of how they treat people the way they never want anybody to treat them. And it's really a sad situation. And also, they're notorious scofflaws. But to answer your question, Dana, it isn't big that's the problem. They have a radical political agenda that is, I call it techtopian, but it has two fundamental principles that I think most all Americans would reject, and that is they disrespect privacy. They believe in radical transparency over privacy. That's why they want to collect everybody's information. And they also want to redistribute everyone's information for free and without permission, so that undermines free market property rights. and that comes from their mission. They have this change the world mission that says we want to organize the world's information and make it universally accessible and useful. Well, that includes destroying your privacy and destroying your property. And if you don't have those things online, you're Google's serf.
Well, one of the things that you had mentioned in this is you gave the example of J. Edgar Hoover, and you said that we really had no idea of all that he collected until after he died. And then you said something that I thought is especially creepy, that Google is not the Freedom of Information Act doesn't apply to Google. Why is that?
Well, it's a private company. It's not the government. So
there's just
what they do is they use the privacy and security expectations that they expect from everybody else, and that they violate for everybody else, and then they want it. They want to be able to be closed and unaccountable and non-transparent, even though they're a monopoly and even though they're serially invading people's privacy and property. So it's that violation of the golden rule, this double standard that they have that allows them to be a monopoly. I mean, it's very easy to achieve a monopoly position if you cheat, if you don't follow antitrust laws. They have 5 antitrust violations federally in the last 30 months alone. Wow. They're being investigated on 3 continents. And that's just one aspect of their scofflaw. On privacy and others, on property rights, it's outrageous.
So is it a stretch to say that it's a kind of like Skynet? That's not really hard. The metaphor we use in the book, though, is Big Brother, and they're Big Brother Inc. And remember, Big Brother only could listen and watch, and Google does much, much more with its 500 services. They know what you want, what you think, what you believe, what you read, what you watch, and what you intend to do, because they track you 24/7, 365, and they never forget. Last quick question, Scott. Should we not use Gmail? I'm just going to ask you that now.
I don't think you should, because that is scanned and recorded, and when you want to eliminate it, they say, "Oh yeah, we'll take it away from you, but we'll keep a copy."
That's so
creepy. It's not a good trade. For free, giving up your security and privacy forever, not a good idea.
Oh my gosh, Scott Clellan, Search and Destroy: Why You Can't Trust Google Inc. Very informative must-have book, also terrifying. Scott, thanks so much. This is a fantastic book. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Dana.
All right.
Appreciate it.
Of course. Take care.